Electoral College is a unique system used to elect the President and Vice President of the United States. It involves electors who are chosen by each state, casting votes that ultimately decide the election's outcome. Here's how it works. 1. Electors are allocated. Each state is assigned a number of electors based on its total number of members in Congress, senators and representatives. For example, California has 55 electors because it has 2 senators and 53 representatives. The total number of electors is 538, with a majority of 270 needed to win the presidency. 2. Voters choose electors. In a general election, voters in each state choose the electors. Although voters technically vote for electors, they usually vote for a slate of electors committed to a specific presidential candidate. The winner of the popular vote in each state, except Maine and Nebraska, typically receives all the state's electoral votes. 3. Winner takes all. In most states, the candidate who wins the popular vote gets all of that state's electoral votes. Maine and Nebraska are exceptions. They use a proportional system where electoral votes can be split between candidates. 4. Electoral votes are cast. After the general election, the electors meet in their respective state capitals to cast their votes for president and vice president. The votes are then sent to Congress. 5. Congress counts the votes. On January 6th, following the election, Congress meets to officially count the electoral votes. If a candidate has 270 or more votes, they are declared the winner. 6. In case of a tie, if no candidate reaches 270 electoral votes, or if there is a tie, the election is decided by the House of Representatives, with each state delegation casting 1 vote to choose the president from among the top 3 candidates. The Senate would then choose the vice president from the top 2 candidates. The Electoral College was established by the U.S. Constitution to balance the interests of small and large states, giving smaller states more influence than they would have in a direct popular vote system. However, it has been a subject of debate, as there have been instances where a candidate won the popular vote but lost the Electoral College, e.g. in the elections of 2000 and 2016. The most notable example prior to 2020 was in 2000, when Al Gore won the popular vote but lost the presidency to George W. Bush, who won the Electoral College after a contentious Supreme Court decision over Florida's vote count. The 2020 election highlighted ongoing debates about the Electoral College system, with critics arguing that it can lead to outcomes where the popular vote winner does not win the presidency, potentially diminishing the value of each individual vote. However, the system remains in place, despite calls for reform from various political and advocacy groups. There have been 5 instances in U.S. history where a candidate won the popular vote but lost the Electoral College, meaning they did not become president. These instances are 1. 1824, Andrew Jackson versus John Quincy Adams. Andrew Jackson won the popular vote and had the most electoral votes, but did not secure the required majority. The election was decided by the House of Representatives, which chose John Quincy Adams as president. This result followed the 12th Amendment process after no candidate received a majority in the Electoral College. 2. 1876, Samuel Tilden versus Rutherford B. Hayes. Samuel Tilden won the popular vote by a narrow margin, but Rutherford B. Hayes won the presidency after a disputed electoral count in several southern states. The election was ultimately decided by a special electoral commission, and Hayes won the disputed electoral votes, giving him the presidency. 3. 1888, Grover Cleveland versus Benjamin Harrison. Grover Cleveland won the popular vote by over 90,000 votes, but Benjamin Harrison won the Electoral College with 233 votes to Cleveland's 168. Harrison's win was largely due to his victories in several key states with a larger number of electoral votes. 4. 2000, Al Gore versus George W. Bush. In one of the most contentious elections, Al Gore won the popular vote by about 500,000 votes. However, George W. Bush won the Electoral College, with the outcome hinging on a disputed vote count in Florida. After a Supreme Court ruling, Bush v. Gore, Bush was awarded Florida's electoral votes, securing the presidency with 271 electoral votes to Gore's 266. 5. 2016, Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by nearly 3 million votes, but Donald Trump won the Electoral College with 304 votes to Clinton's 227. Trump's victories in key swing states such as Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin secured his win despite losing the popular vote. These instances highlight the tension between the popular vote and the Electoral College system, sparking ongoing debates about the effectiveness and fairness of the Electoral College in reflecting the will of the people. The fairness of the Electoral College system is a matter of debate, and opinions vary based on one's perspective on representation, democracy, and federalism. Arguments in favor of the Electoral College. Protection of smaller states. The system gives smaller states more influence than they would have in a pure popular vote system. With 2 senators per state, regardless of population, smaller states are somewhat protected from being overshadowed by more populous states like California or Texas. Encouragement of a broad national campaign. Candidates must appeal to a variety of states, rather than just focusing on densely populated urban areas, which helps ensure a wider geographic spread of issues and interests. Stability and tradition. The Electoral College is part of the U.S. Constitution, and some argue that it has contributed to the stability of the American political system over centuries. Arguments against the Electoral College. Discrepancy between popular and electoral votes. As seen in elections like 2000 and 2016, it's possible for a candidate to win the popular vote but lose the Electoral College, which many critics argue undermines the principle of one person, one vote. Disproportionate influence of swing states. The system gives outsized importance to swing states that could go either way, leading candidates to focus disproportionately on these states while ignoring others where the outcome is more certain. Voter suppression concerns. In a winner-takes-all system, votes for the losing candidate in each state don't count toward the overall result. This can lead to a feeling of disenfranchisement among voters in states where the outcome is not competitive. In short, whether the Electoral College is fair depends on what one values more: protecting smaller states and encouraging a broad national campaign, or ensuring that every vote counts equally in a direct popular vote system. The debate is ongoing, and some advocate for reform or even abolition of the Electoral College to make the system more reflective of the popular vote. The number of electoral votes each state has is based on its representation in Congress. Every state has 2 senators, and the number of representatives in the House of Representatives is determined by the state's population, as measured by the U.S. Census every 10 years. For example, California, being the most populous state, has 55 electoral votes, 2 for its senators and 53 for its House representatives. In contrast, smaller states like Wyoming or Vermont have only 3 electoral votes, 2 for their senators and 1 for their House representative. This system is designed to balance the influence of smaller states with that of larger states, though it does mean that the influence of individual voters varies depending on where they live. The Electoral College system works like this. When you vote in a U.S. presidential election, you're actually voting for a group of people called electors. These electors are pledged to vote for a specific candidate, and the total number of electors across all states is 538. Each state gets a certain number of electors based on its population. The number is equal to the number of senators, which is always 2 per state, plus the number of representatives it has in the House of Representatives. For example, California has 55 electors, 2 senators, plus 53 representatives, while a smaller state like Wyoming has 3 electors, 2 senators, plus 1 representative. On election day, when you vote, you're actually helping to decide which electors will represent your state. In most states, the candidate who wins the popular vote, the most votes from the people, in that state wins all of that state's electoral votes. This is called the winner-takes-all system. Maine and Nebraska are exceptions. They split their electoral votes based on how the state votes. To win the presidency, a candidate needs to get at least 270 electoral votes out of the 538 available. This is why winning some states can be more important than others, especially swing states where the vote is close and can go either way. So, even if a candidate wins the national popular vote, they can still lose the election if they don't win enough electoral votes. This has happened a few times in U.S. history, such as in the 2000 and 2016 elections. Yes, there has been ongoing debate about whether the Electoral College should be abolished. Those who argue for its elimination usually make several key points. 1. One person, one vote. In a direct popular vote system, every person's vote would have equal weight regardless of where they live. 2. Disproportionate focus on swing states. Candidates often focus their campaigns on a small number of swing states, states where the vote is close and could go either way, while ignoring states where the outcome is more predictable. In a popular vote system, candidates would need to appeal to voters nationwide, not just those in a few states. 3. Winning the popular vote but losing the election. There have been instances where a candidate won the national popular vote but lost the presidency because of the Electoral College. This happened in 2000, Al Gore versus George W. Bush, and 2016, Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. Critics argue this undermines the democratic principle that the candidate with the most votes should win. 4. Encouraging voter apathy. In a system where the winner takes all in most states, voters in safe states, where one party is overwhelmingly dominant, might feel their vote doesn't matter as much, leading to lower voter turnout and engagement. On the other hand, supporters of the Electoral College argue that it ensures a balance between the interests of smaller and larger states, prevents a few highly populated areas from dominating the election, and protects the federal structure of the country. Ultimately, the debate centers on how to best represent the diverse population of the U.S. and whether the Electoral College is the best way to reflect the will of the people while maintaining the principles of federalism. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, kindly hit that subscribe bell and give it a like. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you.